All issues discussed on the following podcast are specifically relevant to Memphis and unincorporated Shelby County, including Arlington, Germantown, Lakeland, and Millington. Other jurisdictions, including Bartlett and Collierville, may have policies and procedures which differ from those discussed here. Check with your local building department to determine their requirements. Now, please join us for the Building Beat.
Welcome to the Building Beat. This is Rita Anderson, Chief Building Official for Memphis and Shelby County. I have the pleasure to interview Assistant Fire Marshal Lamar with the City of Memphis Fire Department. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me here today.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? What led you to a career in firefighting?
Okay. Well, it started in 1998 when I first joined the Memphis Fire Department. We went through training. But before then, I was working at the University of Memphis, and I was going through the police academy. And I've noticed in my class there were 8 arson investigators that was going through to get in their post the same as we were. And it's over the time that we was there, we spent about 11 weeks there. And we got to having conversations and everything and started talking about careers and futures and things of this nature. And I was very interested in the job that they did in fire prevention. That's when I very first time I learned about fire prevention. It was so compelling to the point where I told them, how do I join that organization? And of course, they told me to get to where they were, that I had to go through the ranks. I had to go through a training, another, I think it was about 3 months of training. We went from September to December, and from there, you're a firefighter at first, and then as you work, there will be promotional opportunities through testing and interviews and things of this nature. And so if I would test out and make the highest score or score within a certain range, that I could possibly be promoted to that particular department, which it ended up happening in about 8.5 years of fighting fires and learning about the community and different things of this nature, that I was able to take the promotional exam. I scored high enough to be promoted in 2007. And since 2007, I've been out with the Fire Prevention Bureau. From there, I went from the inspector to being named the training officer, where I spent my next 10 years as a training officer. And from there, through the other promotional processes, I became a battalion chief. From there, I was the battalion chief of training, as well as a group of select inspectors that went out throughout the city and did inspections. From there, another position came open, and I interviewed and was promoted to assistant fire marshal, which is my current position now. And since then, it's just been a wonderful journey. It's been something very memorable and very enjoyable.
What do you like best about your position?
What I like best about my position is that I'm able to help people. That's something that my organization is built upon, is helping the community, helping the public, and the people that we come in contact with, and just being able to help people in time of need, not just in emergency times, but what we do as code officials, seeing them come up with a problem of trying to meet the code or trying to understand the intent of the code, and being able to educate them and to explain to them the importance of the code and why the code was written and what's the purpose of the code and the safety that's involved with it for the citizens here in Memphis as well as their businesses. And so that's very enjoyable to me when you can see somebody have a successful opening of a business.
I agree. I would suspect that restaurants are the greatest fire hazard for you guys as well, and how important it is.
Yes, it's very important when you're talking about different cooking mediums, they call it, like deep fryers, salamanders, steamers, whatever, all this equipment back there that they utilize and doing what they do to help serve the people and the citizens here in Memphis, and that there are certain criteria and for how you operate those particular machineries and things, and certain safety devices you have to have in place, to kind of govern and help watch over it while they do their jobs. So, yes, that becomes a challenge at times.
Yeah, and also the maintenance of the fire suppression system over the cooking appliances. Very important to keep that up.
Yes, that's very important. It's very important to have measures in place in case there is a fire that's able to be quickly extinguished and put out. But also have things in place to kind of warn them of things that is about to happen or could happen, that they can go ahead and do things to mitigate those dangers to where they can continue to operate safely in their business.
Can you talk about some of the technical advancements that you've had in your department?
Yes, we have several technical advancements in our department. If you can imagine, back in the day when I first started, I'm really telling my age, we were on paper. So everything we did, we had to write it down. You know, you're writing notes, you reading, you highlighting, you doing all these different things. And at the last step that we did, well, we wrote out on an inspection report. You had to write a narrative. So it's basically almost like being in school. You have to write this story on a limited amount of lines to say exactly what's going on, what were the violations and how the violation had to be remedied and what code reference you were using. And if you can just imagine, it's just, depending on what type of inspector they were, they could be a very thorough inspector or they could be a general inspector. But either way, that there wasn't just enough room to write on paper. So, one of the biggest advancements we came to is when we went to the iPad and we went to what is called the Acela program, which is a program that it really streamlines our job and allow us to get to more businesses in a given day than what it was in the past. Whereas maybe you achieve 10 businesses in that particular day. Now you can almost double that with the way it's been streamlined. Then Acela is a program that you can put different code references in it, or it already has code references that's in there, different NFPA standards, everything that you need in order to conduct that inspections. You're able to hit it with a push of a button. You know, you can save comments without having to constantly rewrite paragraphs and pages and different things of this nature. You can just start it. And when you get to that particular point, you can just paste. It's almost like pasting it in a Microsoft Word document and you can edit it on the run.
And penmanship is really critical when you're writing notes or comments, where on the old form, it's always difficult to read somebody else's penmanship. It's like, what are they trying to say? What does that mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty much like writing a foreign language, you know. It almost looks like a prescription that a doctor's write, you know, pun intended against doctors, but it's almost like a writing that some people are very challenged to read and and the thing about our industry is you don't want to misread something that you're asked to do, because you can end up doing something and costing you money to get something put in place and come to find out that it's something that wasn't written, it wasn't said, but it was misunderstood because of the writing, like you said. So definitely that's a big changer with us going to the iPads and the Acela program. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Acela is our new program, is our cloud software platform we use for Develop 901. And for the building department and plan review, we found it very useful. Architects had found it very informative. We're able to have workflows, matrix to determine how long a project takes, and also like the comments are clearly typed out and hopefully clear. And now we have also Digiplan, where we can mark up the building plans and say, this is the area that we're talking about. And I think it's very useful, the new technology that we have. And it's great that both you and I, the fire department, the building department, engineering, hopefully soon public works, land use development, we use the same program. So we're able to access the same information, an applicant, when they apply for a permit, and we can share those documents. Well, what I meant is that all the departments are able to view the same documents, and the applicant doesn't need to drop off separate documents to each different department. It's done mostly online, which is, I think it's great. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Just like our two departments, it connects us with a common goal of the safety of the city. I like the program for the point that, like you just said, the way it used to be that your department would get a set of plans and you'll review them and you'll look through them and, you know, mark them up and on things that was important to the building official. And from there, somebody either from my department had to come over there and retrieve those plans, or you all would bring the plans to us, and then we'll go through and we'll look at them. And a lot of times, plans would get approved before we had a chance to look at them, or there's a change that we had interest in that maybe your department wasn't aware of during the approval process. So it has the communication has greatly improve the communication as well as collaboration, that when a set of plans come in, that the two of us can look at them together and to decide on whether or not what changes need to be made, or alterations or modifications and things like that. So the more departments are a part of the Acela program, the more streamlined we're going to become as far as when you think about the timeline it is for a business or a building that's being built from ground up, from start to completion would be greatly improved.
Oh, I agree. J.D. Stinson and I and John Storms, our plans examiners, we're always in communication. It's like, hey, did you see this? What do you think about this? What are your comments? You're right. It's greatly improved. The other thing I really like about Acela is we're able to go back. Previously, we kept the plans in a big storage room. So it was very difficult to find the plans if there was a revision to something. Now with Acela, we have a digital copy of what was previously approved. And when we go back, we can see how it was designed. It's like, okay, this is what we approved previously. For plan review, that's a really big issue for us to see, like, what did we approve previously? And now that we have a permanent digital copy, it really makes our job a little bit easier. Although we only have 4 years worth of saving this, but I think in 10 to 15 years, it will become very useful for those in the future to see what we approved and why did we approve certain things. I think it's very important.
I agree.
Can you talk about fire prevention programs and that you have in place for the community?
Like I said earlier, we have the code enforcement side, which are made up of inspectors that go out throughout the city. Businesses are opening up and requesting through your department to have the right to open up through the use and occupancy process. And we are a part of that process where we go in and conduct inspections to determine the safety of the building, to determine the compliance with the codes. And a lot of things that people don't understand is that we enforce the bare minimum and when it comes to the fire code. And a lot of times they may feel like that is so stringent, but it is the bare minimum. It's the lowest you can go in terms of safety. And one of the misconceptions is that although we enforce the bare minimum, a owner or the insurance company and entities that have an interest in that particular business can have them to go above and beyond. An example is we can, the code may require one smoke detector, right? But the insurance company, because they're insuring them, may turn around and say, well, we want 10. So guess what? They have to install 10. Well, all we're going to do is say, you meet the one, you meet the code, right? And we also have the public education sector as part of our department, where we have people who go out in the communities and talk about fire safety. They speak to the schools, businesses about fire safety, evacuation plans. They speak to all ages from kindergarten, pre-K to the elderly. And so they're out there every day, all day doing that. We have, you think about 266 schools here in the city of Memphis, not to mention you have private schools and things of this nature that they are talking to all the time and setting up events for them and everything. Public appearance from the fire department, with the fire trucks and everything. So we have a, fire prevention trailer that we take around and show the children, and as well as adults if need be. And so, you have that. Then you also have, arson investigation, which goes out and they investigate arsons. So any call of a concern to where it may be possibly arson and things of this nature, they're out there every day, fires investigating whether or not to make a determination on whether it was arson or not. And other programs, just in general, every inspector is well-rounded to also do fire education talks and different things. But just so many things we just do around the community, and just instead of just what people think that we're just there to they think that we're just there to just shut their business down, but that's not what we do.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I wish more applicants, especially for new businesses, if they would contact the building department or the zoning department before they sign a lease so that they would know some of the requirements that would apply to that particular business. It's actually sometimes it's heartbreaking because they've invested quite a bit of money. It's like, oh, guess what? You need an additional bathroom. You need a sprinkler system in the building. And sometimes that's cost prohibitive and it's very difficult. And like you said, we enforce the minimum code, not a maximum, not a medium. It's the bare minimum code. And, it's sometimes it's hard for the citizens to understand that we're not picking on them. It's just, we're enforcing the minimum code. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything that you would like to share with our listeners about the Memphis Fire Department? I'm sure you'll say something about the smoke detectors. Don't take those batteries out or replace them now that we're going to fall back.
They change the season. Yeah, the biggest thing to take away is we want everybody to understand the importance of fire safety. And it starts with the smoke detectors. It starts with the carbon monoxide detectors, to where to make sure that they're installed in their homes. The biggest thing, there are two types. In the beginning, yes, we said you change the time, change the battery. That's if you have those types that are on a yearly battery. But they're now with, like you said, we talk about technology. So now with the technical advances, they have the smoke detector with the 10-year battery. Oh, wow. So that's going to be a little more challenging at times to keep up with. But if they would just remember to know when they bought the detector, when it was put up, and go ahead and put into their, we have our smartphone. We have so many things that we had, iPads, Androids, Apples and stuff. Go ahead and program in your phone to give you every 5 years to give you a reminder to change your smoke detector. And as well for the yearly, just go ahead. I know we say go by the seasons, but people get busy. Things are going on. You intend to do it, but you tend sometimes to forget to go ahead and just program that in their phone. We program everything else in our phone, right? So go ahead and program your calendar to remind you to change the battery in your smoke detector. And that gets annoying too if you don't, because before you acknowledge it in your phone, go ahead and do it. That way you can say, you can go ahead and dismiss it or delete it at that time. And the biggest thing too is that, don't put the smoke detector right there at the kitchen. Smoke detectors go at the bedrooms and also in other rooms in the houses as well, but not the kitchen. Don't put it to where every time you fry chicken or you cook something that it sets off the smoke detector. What happens when it starts going off? It gets annoying. People take it down. They take the battery out. They're intending on putting it back up when they get through cooking and everything, but they tend to forget. And when you forget, and that's when bad things happen. And it's unfortunate, but that's one thing we want to really let them to understand is don't take it down. Don't take the battery out. Just make sure it's in the proper location. If you have a question about the location, you can always call fire prevention, or you can always go by any fire station and just talk with them. Just talk with them about the placement of your smoke detector. If you want to get advice, I would tell you also, the greatest source of information as to where you place your smoke detector. You can just simply Google it. That's what we tell our kids all the time, right? Just Google it. And you can go on YouTube. There's so many places out there because of technology where you can find out the proper placement of a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector. The carbon monoxide detector, you want to place it as close to the appliance that produces that carbon monoxide. Now that's when you do want to place it as close as possible.
The gas appliance.
Exactly. Yes. Because the minute, that gas leaks out into the place where you're living, you want to be notified. So furnaces, if you have a gas line to your stove where you cook with gas and things of this nature, you want the carbon monoxide close by. Right.
And you want it closer to the floor.
Exactly.
Not high up where you normally would have the smoke detector.
Exactly. So by all means, do read the instructions. Don't just put it up. That brings me to another point that there are some things out there that's a combination. It's a smoke and a carbon monoxide detector. You still want to be careful with that because just think about it. If you put that close to a kitchen, the smoke detector part is still going to go off. right? So you want to be very careful. But for the carbon monoxide side of it, you still want it close to the appliance. But if it happened to be a gas-powered stove, you may want to just put you just may want to just go ahead and get a separate smoke detector and a separate carbon monoxide detector. That way you don't put the smoke detector side of it too close to the stove where it's going to constantly go off.
Right. And that would defeat the purpose.
Exactly.
And the reason for the smoke detector is to alert the residents or the people sleeping that, hey, there's a fire. And most of the time it will occur in the kitchen.
Yes.
And so you want it leading to the bedrooms and the hallway, and so that they're alerted and awakened. Yes.
And also, set up an evacuation plan with your family, and by all means practice it. I mean, we're not saying it's not practice it every week, but if you just practice it once a month, quiz each other, ask each other questions. Hey, what would you do if this happened? What would you do if this happened? Also have a meeting place where everybody knows to go, because, the reality is in a fire, maybe not everybody can just get together and walk out together, right? Everybody going out in different directions, whatever you can do. If it's a window, if it's another door, if it's a back door, a front door. But if everybody has a meeting place, the accountability is critical. So when the fire department shows up, you can let them know that everybody made it out safely. And so the fire department can go about their operation and doing what they need to do. But the fire department mode is always safety first. So it's always going to be a rescue mindset before an extinguishment mindset.
I think that's wonderful advice that you've provided. I want to thank you for joining us today, Assistant Fire Marshal Lamar. Very informative information for our Memphians residents.
You're very much welcome.
Thank you for listening to The Building Beat.
Thank you for listening to The Building Beat. Executive producers are Director John Zena and Deputy Director Nadia Logan Robinson. Associate producer is me, Brianna Miller. Special thanks to Ina Esco, artist in residence with the Memphis Library Foundation and the Memphis Public Libraries. The song featured in the show is Hush by the Mason Affair. This is a production of the Memphis and Shelby County Division of Planning and Development. To learn more about this podcast and our work, visit our website at develop901.com.